I've been minding my skin, it's getting thicker. Laying my feelings bare, I listen to D and Fisher. I'm seeing the bigger picture, to see and believing bigger. Acknowledging gifts and all of my blessings, I'm seeing Christmas. When you see me, know I could've just been a product of my environment. Wishing but not desiring, wanting early retirement. Always had direction, so I would rather be Simon. Peers would undermine it, really they just admire it.
Episode 4 of At Your Big Age, and today we're going to talk about our journeys with religion, Christianity.
Yes.
That's your background, right?
Yes.
So what type of Christian are you? Or what were you?
I don't know. What
kind of church did you go to? Did you go to Church of England? Were you Roman Catholic?
No, I think it was Roman Catholic. No, it's Church of England.
Church of England.
Church of England.
Okay. So I have been raised as a Roman Catholic. I've done probably all but I think 2 of the sacraments. I know Eucharistic minister I didn't do, and there's another final one. I can't remember what that is. But yeah, we just want to talk about our journeys today in terms of our faith or the lack thereof.
In my case.
Well, I think in both of our cases. Yeah. So you said something about a dinosaur story.
Yes, I'll tell you. Yeah, we'll start with that. So I grew up, as many of us do, in a West Indian household that had various pictures of somebody that was supposed to be Jesus.
Yeah.
All over the place. And my mum would always have us go to church. Mm-hmm. So you just go Sunday school, you'd be in church.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing until I think I was about 8 or 9, and child of the 80s had a massive thing for dinosaurs. Always dinosaurs. And I went to Sunday school, and the woman was telling us a story about the Bible and stuff. And I said, she said, "Yes, Kieran, what's the question?" I said, "Why are there no dinosaurs in the Bible?" Mm-hmm. She said, "What?" I said, "There's no dinosaurs in the Bible. Why?" So I don't understand where the time frame, how it fits, because it doesn't make any sense. It's me at 8, no internet, no nothing.
Yeah.
Asked the question. She couldn't answer it. I've not been back to church for myself. I've been for christenings and stuff.
Yeah.
That was the last time I physically remember going to church on a Sunday, because religion is never really, from that, it doesn't make any sense to me.
And your mum allowed that? Hey.
She was quite accommodating. Oh, well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did she still continue to go to church?
Yeah, she went. She did continue to go. She still went. Yeah, I think I got christened afterwards just for formality's sake.
All right, okay.
But
at 8?
At 10, I think.
Oh, at 10?
I think I got christened with my niece. Yeah. But
Did you get baptized or christened?
christened. There was no baptism.
So you didn't go underwater? No. Okay, cool.
But for me, from that, me and religion stopped. And then obviously, we'll get to it, but it's a lot of, I feel like it creates a lot of division amongst people. And
I can hear that.
It's not, I don't want to say it's not necessary, because I want to rubbish people's beliefs. But for me, it's not something that I prescribe to at all.
I think, do you know what? It was interesting you were saying about when you start to ask questions, because I think every child at some stage gets to the point where they're like, something's not quite adding up here. And again, there's no answer to your question. So it's like, I think you can kind of go one or two ways. You can either remain blissfully ignorant. And when I say that, I don't mean that people who are religious are blissfully ignorant. What I'm saying is that once you have that state of awareness where you start to ask questions, you can either go one or two ways. You can either keep asking questions or keep going down the route that you have been given, if that makes sense. So I think for me, like I said, like I was christened as a baby. I had my first Holy Communion. I went to Roman Catholic infant, primary and secondary school. I think for me, it got to the point in secondary school where I was open to a lot more information. So there's, I don't know even what to call it, but there was there was an organization or a practice called Nuwabianism, right? And basically what they did, it was kind of run by Dr. Malachi York. And what he did is he would take his followers through Christianity. So he'd make them live the life. So he'd make them go through Christianity, go through Islam. But then whilst he's doing that, he's also then imparting a lot of scientific knowledge. So there were a lot of things that I was aware of at 15 that would come out like in the science community 15 years later. So when it now came out, I'm like, okay, this guy wasn't actually talking that much rubbish. However, he did get imprisoned for apparently sexually abusing dozens of kids, you know, allegedly. But so for me, that was where my kind of the broadening of my questioning started to come from, and then I started to read a lot more. I would say for me, I wouldn't regard myself as religious. I think it's taken me a while to kind of get to the point where I'm comfortable to kind of be like openly say, do you know what, I don't regard myself as religious. I still have a very good, big respect for religion, because I think it does give you that foundation in a certain sense.
If you believe in it, yeah.
Yeah, if you believe in it. But I'm just, you know, like just from a standpoint of, you know, I guess certain morals and stuff like that. But I think maybe my biggest kind of gripe, I would say, would be the resistance to actually look at the Bible in a whole when it comes to people who practice Christianity. Because a lot of the time, you know, you go to church, and particularly in the Roman Catholic Church, each week is basically the same content that you would have got the year before, depends on the time of the year it was. But then the priest would kind of give his little speech at some point in the kind of service. But there wasn't much depth in digging into things like the Old Testament, you know, because if we really check it, there's a lot of things in the Old Testament that people don't prescribe to. And I think this is why I probably not necessarily say have more respect for people who practice Islam, but it is what it is. And not to say that some people don't deviate and they don't drink and they don't do that. So of course they do. But it kind of very much is what it is. Whereas with Christianity, I feel like there are so many different denominations. You can be Pentecostal, you can be Roman Catholic, you can be Ethiopian Orthodox, you can there's so many different Latter-day Christian, Jehovah's Witness, yada yada yada. There doesn't seem to be much unity in terms of what the actual, I guess, practice is, if that makes sense.
All right, let me ask you a question. I got my smile on. Do you actually believe in God? Like as a concept, do you believe in God?
I get asked this question a lot because a lot of people feel like I don't believe in God. I don't believe in God in the same context that most people do. So I don't believe that God is a man that sits on this throne with a white beard and he judges and he does this. That's not what I believe. I believe more so in the fact that we, you know, like for example, in the Bible it does say, you know, we are an image of God, or he's in the image of us, right? I believe that God is everything. I believe that God is a universal energy. I don't see God as a particular person, in summary.
So the Big Bang thing's not a thing?
I think the Big Bang is a thing, but again, I feel like there is a universal consciousness because the two can exist at the same time.
Right,
exactly. You know, so like I say, for me, the concept of God, and this is just my personal opinion, so no one shoot me down, but I feel like probably in ancient civilizations, they probably knew what it was, but it kind of got to a stage where it's like, how do we explain this to people? And I feel like each culture developed their own system to make it understandable. and they probably had to use a person in order to demonstrate that energy. That's what I believe.
I'll tell you what, if we're going to be, aside from the dinosaur thing, I'll tell you my main gripe with, I don't feel like Christianity is ours.
When you say ours, what
Because
do you mean?
we don't know. I said this to my mum the other day, she was dumbfounded. She couldn't believe that her son was such a heathen. We are, as a set of people, we've been displaced, right?
Absolutely.
So before everything that happened to us happened, wherever we were, I would hypothesize.
Mm-hmm.
I would hypothesize that we would have had some sort of religion in place.
Yeah, we did, absolutely.
Right. So for me, unless you can give me that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not following anything, because that's not. And this is Christianity, and I'm only going to talk about Christianity because that's what I was brought up in. I'm not going to talk about anything else. But I would like that, because that would be ours. Yeah.
But you can have that, because those practices are still very much
Where?
everywhere.
What? Which ones?
Don't ask me to name them, but
You got to
but
prove.
but African spirituality is very much a thing.
I feel like it's all been tainted.
No, I don't know. I disagree. I mean, the thing is, I've not really delved too much into African spirituality, and not because out of a fear factor or anything like that. But for me, my spiritual journey is a personal one, so I will gravitate to what I gravitate to, right? But let's talk about hoodoo and voodooism, for example. Now, those are ancient African spirituality practices, or let's call them religions. Now, obviously, I don't know if you know this, but in Jamaica, Okay,
Yeah.
right. So, did you
I
know?
looked up quick for us. He said, "But what? What'd you say?"
I mean, don't quote me on the exact date, but after the Maroons had defeated the British, did you know that the British outlawed Obeah?
Yeah, of course they did.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, again, this is one of the things that kind of really made me start to really dig deep and read and actually make sense of, because for me, I had an unnecessary fear when it came to Obeah because of things I heard. So I had to be like, okay, people fear what they don't understand. So actually, let me actually start to do some research on it. Now, when I actually started to do some reading, I realized that Obeah actually is just, an ancient African spirituality practice. It doesn't have to consist of
Black magic.
and even then, let's talk about black magic.
Evil
Why
magic.
why is it called black magic? Is it because that Africans were so spiritually advanced and they were able to do certain things, like, for example, not to say, obviously, Africans were very much skilled in war and guerrilla warfare, right? But obviously their spiritual practices would have enhanced whatever it is that they were doing, and the British outlawed it in Jamaica in either the 17th, is that 1790? I can't even remember, so don't quote me on the date. But when I saw that, to me, that spoke volumes. And, also the fact of the matter also is that, we were purposely stripped of our practices when we were taken from the west coast of Africa. And why would you do that?
Yeah.
I remember I started to write a book a couple of years ago. And
You wrote a book.
I started to write a book. I've started to write two. I've ghostwritten a book before.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think you know someone. Go on. Sorry.
Got a lot of things up my sleeve,
Clearly.
And I was doing some research for my book, but what I wanted to ascertain is how Christianity had travelled, basically through Europe and then through Africa. And then when you actually look at the journey, all of these places that the Romans brought Christianity to were all places that they colonized. Now, as we all know, I'm sure we all know, Christianity was a very big part of the colonization of a lot of places. Now, don't get me wrong, Islam was already quite big with the Moors and stuff like that in Africa. So a huge part of Africa was already practicing Islam, probably not as we know today, but that was very much a thing, you know. So again, I feel like the more the years go by, it becomes very difficult for me to say that I wholeheartedly can prescribe to religion when I know the damage it's done. I know the texts that have been falsified. I know the texts that have been removed. You know, it doesn't take much reading to know that the Vatican have scrolls of text from the Bible hidden in the vaults. So what is it that you're trying to hide?
This is why I don't transcribe to any religion. It's easier. Life is so much easier when you just...
Life is so much easier when you're not being beaten with fear and scare tactics.
Yeah, 100%. I just,
you know,
move off energy. Your energy's good. My energy's good. Your Christianity, okay,
yeah,
no problem. Muslim, okay, no problem. Hindu, Sikh,
yeah.
As long as, and I feel like where we talk about teachings and stuff, is we shouldn't need an ancient text to know that you shouldn't be a. Just don't be mean. Don't be horrible. Just be like, live good with people, and then hopefully good will come throughout. No?
I mean, yes, but are we inherently born good?
No one is. But you know what's good. You know what's right from wrong. You know, everybody knows what's right. You know what you're doing.
I mean, so say for example, you who was that? No, I wasn't talking to you about this, but I was talking to somebody, and they were saying about this guy who had grown up in a family that were heavily incestuous.
Okay.
Right? From day. So uncles, parents, whatever else. So he knew no different. He didn't understand it was wrong until he raped a boy and got in prison for it. He didn't know that was wrong because that was something that has been so ingrained into him that he thought it was normal. He had no idea. So that's why I say, are we born inherently good, or actually, or you're a product of your environment? And with that,
you picked a hard example there. I can't say anything to that. Me, of all people that has something to say on India, there's nothing I can say to that at all. You just stonewalled me.
Oh,
how dare you?
Sorry, I apologize. I mean, I very much come from the perspective of you cannot have the dark without the light. You can't have the yin without the yang.
Yeah.
Right? So there has to be a balance. So I guess what I'm trying to probably say is that maybe religious text was necessary in order to maybe guide people from doing wrong things, because maybe people were wilding back in the day.
So then have we as a society outgrown religion then? Because we know now.
But do we all know? Because
are we still whiling that we need to
we're still whiling.
Do we need to be governed by some ancient... all right, at this point, do you need to know that you shouldn't covet your neighbour's wife?
Maybe, because people are still doing it.
Because then you just want to covet your neighbour's wife. That's just because you want to do that.
Okay, but then
you know it's wrong.
But why is it wrong?
Because that's your neighbour's wife. You know it's wrong.
No, but why is it wrong? Because let's strip it back. Real talk, let's strip it back. Okay, so someone made a law, because remember, marriage wasn't a thing really before, right? So marriage was more like a business contract. So within this business contract, as the centuries have gone by, someone said, do you know what, actually, if I let my neighbour sleep with my wife, that means that they could potentially have offspring, right? And therefore, that offspring could, for example, be entitled to the wealth that I've brought into the family. So I can't have that.
Right.
Can't have that. So then a contract was written up,
and
it's developed.
Sleep with your neighbour's wife.
Right. But, and can I just say, viewers, I'm not saying that we should cover another person's wife. I'm also not saying that I advocate for any of this, but I'm just trying to have, a balanced conversation. I just want to make that clear. Who says that coveting your neighbour's wife is wrong, other than this document here that says that?
Maybe I've got too much faith in people, to be fair, to know to say that people will know what's right and what's wrong. I feel like you know, if even a child, you know, don't pull this off there. There's a bag there. I'm looking at the bag. Everyone tells you don't look at the bag. I'm looking at the bag. I'm going to pull off the bag. The kid knows I probably shouldn't pull the bag. But the dark side of me is going to tell me to pull the bag. So in that instance, the dark wins against the light. But you know, as a whole, without any kind of religious teaching, that child knows I definitely shouldn't have done that.
Why?
I'm going to test the envelope because they know. Kids know.
No, but child can see a bag, and it's like, oh, that bag is. It looks like it might be crunchy.
Don't touch the bag, Dion.
It might be da 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 da.
Dion, don't touch that bag. Don't you touch that bag.
And
Dion.
out of curiosity, they just want to feel the bag and just take it down. Is that their dark side, or is it just curiosity?
Curiosity is your dark side.
Really? But curiosity has born many.
It's also killed many cats.
Curiosity made this watch. Curiosity made the phone. So actually, is it your dark side?
Sometimes. Curiosity made the atom bomb. The H bomb. Curiosity's done a lot of bad things. Curiosity is as good as it is evil. It's in everybody.
No, absolutely.
So
But then
I feel like we don't need a book to or a text or anything for you to know that you just if. And again, this is me having too much faith in people. I feel like no, it is. I know it is. I'm conscious of it as well. I feel like if there was no religion in the world, I feel like the world would operate a hell of a lot better, because you see the divisions that are put, like Sikhs can't talk to this group can't talk to that group, we can't mix with this one. If your beard's too big, I'm assuming you're going to blow something up. There's so much at this point. There's so much just mad. My mum even does it. When she talks about Africans sometimes. She says, mind that African girl, she might poison you. Don't eat from them. Like, we're laughing,
but that's not religion.
It's not
though.
religion, but it's on par with it. There's so much differences and lines of division and stuff between groups of people. Some of it is born out of religious stuff. Some of it is born out of sheer ignorance.
Yeah.
But if we imagine just for a second, imagine a world where we got rid of all of that. It's the same reason why I don't do football, because it was bare argument growing up. So imagine we just got stripped everything down. You're a person, I'm a person. Let's just function off that. I want the best for you. I would hope you want the best for me. And we're just going to operate off of just energy. And I'm going to keep saying it. I have way too much faith in people. And it always comes back and bites me in the arse. But I can't, the religious thing, I can't do it. I can't do it. I want
to throw a question out to you.
Go on.
So you mentioned the atomic bomb, right? So you said that was curiosity, and that came from a dark place. Okay. But the person that developed that bomb probably developed it out of a space of fear, no? Because they were scared that they might be attacked. So in their mind, it's like, well, I've got to do this to protect myself and my people, because these ones over here are giving me all sorts of gun signals from across the way. So again, is that the dark side, or actually was that born out of someone just trying to protect themselves? So who's the bad guy here then?
It's perspective.
Do you understand? Yeah.
Perspective. It is perspective. It's open to interpretation. Because I can be a villain in one story and a hero in the other.
There you go.
Two can.
So and this
right,
and this is why you cannot have the dark without the light. And I feel like, religions try to probably push too heavy onto the light side, and people cannot comply with it. Look at the black community and pastors.
Don't go there.
No, we're going to go there.
Nah, don't do this.
We're going to go there.
What, Toby? Are we going to talk?
Do
about
you know what? We
Pastor
don't
Toby?
even need to talk about Toby. Toby
and the frauds to people in the church.
You know, but Toby is just one man. But you know, you see these videos flying around of. I think the most ridiculous one I saw is they had this person. No. The pastor was trying to make it look like he was being resurrected, but they had just tied strings to him to like elevate him to the ceiling. Or you had that pastor that was telling the female congregation that they had to give him oral sex in order to receive holy milk or something like that.
Yeah, it's a business though.
It's
isn't it?
it's an absolute travesty,
It is.
and it's running a mockery on. Because the thing is, I don't. As much as I know about the history of Christianity and I know how it came to be what it was, I believe maybe in the beginning it was a good thing, but then it's like once Europeans got hold of it, realized they could use it as a tool.
Yeah, power corrupts, isn't it?
Right.
Power corrupts.
Do you know what I mean? And
Power
this is why I don't have any ill feeling towards religions and people who still practice them, because I too once was a Roman Catholic, so I can appreciate the foundation it gave me in terms of my spiritual journey and stuff like that.
I don't want to. Just to clarify, I'm not rubbishing any, not for your benefit.
yeah.
Not for your benefit. Someone will say, "Oh, you're blasphemy." I get that people. It's like it's human nature to need something. You need to believe in something because it makes things make more sense. Like if you woke up tomorrow and you found out that we are literally all here by fluke, and I really do believe that, to be honest, that we're all here by fluke, people will wild out because there's no. I think it's a condition. Like we have to find familiar patterns in things. It's a name for it. I can't remember the name now. I'll find out. But it's in us to have to find patterns that make sense. So the pattern that makes sense in life is that there's a higher purpose, there's a higher order. We're here, we pass away. We either go to the good place or we go to the bad place.
So what's your opinion on that? Do you believe in heaven and hell?
I actually believe in reincarnation. I read a good book. I read a book called The Seat of the Soul. It's by a guy called Gary Zukav. Zukav? And basically what he's saying is we are here every time, like we live multiple lifetimes.
Yeah.
You basically keep repeating your life.
Until you learn that karmic lesson.
Until you get whatever it is that you keep getting wrong right.
Right, yeah.
And it's all about the power of intention. It's a really good book. And it's not even long. It's a really like proper highlight.
That sounds like a good read.
Highlight pen out and everything. But yeah, I try and live off. Like I don't even know if I'm going to be here again afterwards. But for the time I'm here, I literally try and do the right. I'm not a saint. Like do you know what I mean? But everything I do, it comes from a good place. Sometimes I get it back, sometimes I don't. But that doesn't stop me from still trying.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not, and that's not from because again, as far as I'm concerned, I might not even come back and be reincarnated. This might be my one shot. Do you know what I mean? We're here, we pass, we go where we go. I don't think there's anything there afterwards. We might come back. I hope we do.
Okay, so you believe that once you've completed your karmic lesson,
you're no longer here. You've got no lessons to learn.
So where do you go?
You cease to be. We're just energy. You just go somewhere. You're not there.
Okay.
Or your echoes. Sometimes it sounds like I'm crazy. Sometimes you get. I feel like obviously we're water electronic impulses and stuff. You're no longer here. Your energy doesn't leave. It just turns into something else.
Yeah,
right?
transmutes.
Yeah. So we're no longer here. Your energy's still here. Sometimes you're sitting down. You might out of nowhere someone's passed as close to you and they pop in your head. They could literally that energy that person is there for me.
Yeah.
Right. It's not even a religious thing. That's just how it is. So. Every single time someone remembers you and you're no longer here, that's your energy, either passing through them or being somewhere close to them for me. Yeah. So going off of that, I try and make sure the memories that most people are going to have of me
are good ones.
They have to be good ones because that you can't forget who I like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That energy has to keep being repeated.
Yeah.
The only way it's going to keep being repeated is if you genuinely sit there and think, oh.
Yeah.
and I pop up. And that's there's no for me. There's no heaven or hell. There's just we're here, and you pop up in the memories of people as energy, and then
I definitely don't believe in the concept of hell, only because I know that the concept of hell was born out of the Pan. So there's a pagan figure called Pan, because when Christianity came into Europe, you know, paganism was what they practiced. So what they had to do was align, because it wasn't an easy job to try and get all these people to convert. So what they had to do is, so things like, there's no coincidence that things like Easter is during the Spring Orthodox. We know Jesus wasn't born in December.
of course he was. I was born in December.
No, he wasn't. There's a lot of symbolism within the church. There's a lot of dates within the church that align with the original pagan faiths. So again, for me, it's a bit like, what are you trying to do here? And again, but this is why it's just very important to read if you're curious. But not everyone's going to go on that journey, and you know there are going to be a lot of people in opposition. But I just urge you to read. I'm not trying to change your mind, because it's you do whatever you want. You can carry on. But for me personally, I've done too much reading, understanding symbolism, understanding different practices, understanding different religions, to know that what we are being delivered as Christians today is not authentic. I mean, like, just for argument's sake, like, the King James version of the Bible baffles me. It absolutely baffles me, because I'm like, how are you taking a version of a Bible that was basically tampered with by an English king? It makes no sense to me.
Oh, is that what that one is?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Do you know what? Do you know what? I don't think we can do this in half an hour.
No.
There's no way.
Because
Because if I start spitting,
so hold on, wait.
we can't do this in half an hour. There's no way.
So hold on. So as a concept, you believe in a higher power.
I believe I believe in God consciousness. Mm-hmm. So I believe that we're all connected. Mm-hmm. I believe that we are all, people will get upset if I say this. I would say that we're all gods because we have the ability to create. Yeah. I do not believe that any one person has more energetic power than the other. It's just untapped.
Untapped potential.
Untapped potential. Some people untap that potential, some people don't. Yeah. So, for example, the air is here. We can't see it, but without the air, we wouldn't be here.
We should have got a youth pastor on here.
We could do that.
We should do that. We should get a youth pastor on here.
Should we do that?
We should do that.
Should we do that?
We should do that. We should do that. We should get a youth pastor on here.
Yeah.
That would be. Yeah.
Do you know what? See, my only issue when it comes to people who are like very religious, yeah, is that the only thing they will come back with is, well, Deuteronomy chapter 1 says this. No, because if I'm going to have a conversation with somebody, I need some critical. I need some critical thinking to go on here. So for me, and this is why I tend to just avoid having the conversation altogether, because if you just come back to me with scripture, that is not going to wash when we're having a conversation where I'm not agreeing with you. You can't come back with scripture. You need to come back with something else a bit more firm. You know what I mean? Yeah, we can't do this in half an hour. There's no way. There's literally no way.
You know, in an ideal world, and this won't work because it'll be argument. You get a couple people from each religious denomination.
Yeah.
But it would cause a passa. Can you imagine? No, and this is what I'm saying about.
But these are the conversations that need to be had.
No, they are, because it would be like, who's done that? You get, without it being the speaker's corner ignorance where people are and being disrespectful. It would have to be 4 people and us or whatever, and be open to say, you know what, yeah, I'll sit down and we'll talk about and yeah, like a proper conversation about across the board.
Yes,
everyone's respectful of everybody else.
One Christian, one Muslim,
Yeah.
maybe a Sikh,
a Hindu person,
someone who's just spiritual.
a Buddhist,
Yeah.
and me.
Nah, I'm here
A
for it.
Sikh, a Hindu, a Muslim, a Buddhist, and a fish. just sitting there having a conversation. No,
No, I'm with
that would
it.
be that would be a proper conversation.
Yeah, I think that
That would be a
definitely
proper
would be. Yeah.
conversation. That would be a proper conversation. Still, we'll have to come back to this one,
Yeah.
innit?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll have to come back to
We'll have
this.
to come to this one.
We'll have to come back to this one.
Yeah. Because there's too many points to be
I
made.
didn't even get to the whole castle in Africa thing, the slave thing with the church above the flipping tombs where they have all the slaves and that. I didn't even get there. Me and Christianity is not friends, you know. Nah, bro. Nah, bro.
I mean, don't even get me started about the fact that the New Testament was written in to when the Europeans got hold of it.
The cells
How
are
many
here.
Hebrews?
Imagine this, the cells are here. We're in the cells as slaves. The church is up here.
Yeah. To bless you on your way out.
They're doing up church life, and we're in
In
Ghana.
Ghana, like Elmina Castle,
Elmina
Cape
Castle.
Coast. Yeah, Cape Coast Castle.
Yeah, when they?
Yeah, I went there as
When
well.
they? When they, bro? Huh? Yeah. Like it's a where we would have been as good.
Imagine half of this room,
Wow.
250 women would have been held in that part of the room. In 40-degree heat in Ghana. And imagine how many of us still survived that. That's why, you see when we're mashing up the tracks and all them things there, think of the horrendous conditions that we would have been put in,
Mad.
and we're still dead there.
It's mad. That there, you can feel the death in the. Like,
Honestly,
it's
you literally,
you walk in there and
the energy.
it's heavy. Like you literally walk in, it's just like someone's on your back.
Yeah.
It's horrible. And there's a church with a cross right above it.
And then you go through the door of no return, and there's some scripture above the door, isn't there? Yeah,
Mad. And all of this would have been under the guise of Christianity.
literally. And this is why I'm just like, I can't.
it's
Do you
wild.
know what really upset me? I went to Cancun back in 2015, right? And we were on the way to Tulum or Coba, I can't remember. But we had to drive through some thick, not bush, but do you know what I mean? And I'm looking at all these little Mexican women, you know, that they're like this tall Pocahontas, and they had altars with the Virgin Mary.
It's wild.
Do you know I cried? Do you know I actually cried? Because I was like, look at you and look at her. She has no business being here. So whatever you used to practice before they came, you're now praying to the Virgin Mary. It makes honestly, it really upset me.
It's wild.
Cut the cameras, man. I'm vexed now.
It's wild. It's wild. Even